Hello, everybody. It's a happy Sunday. Sunday is our fun day, and we're going to be talking about the housing market and if the housing boom is over. Because if you just type in the Google webs at the top and you put in housing market and then scroll for the past week, that's what every single headline reads. And you throw up the one that I saw today where it immediately says the housing market boom is over. He's going to throw this up my little my producer as soon as he gets it up there. Here we go. Yep. Is the housing market boom over? The experts say yes. So, and this is how, they get people to click. These are, we're going to talk about it more because I have a very special guest on. His name is Dan Ludwig. I always get last names wrong. And he is out of the California market. So let's go ahead. You're out of the California market, right?
No, I live in Florida. I'm just
Florida?
kidding.
I was going to say, where the hell did that come from?
No, I'm in Southern California.
Southern California. So
Yes.
Tell a little bit about yourself, my friend, to the people that do not know you.
If you don't know who I am, it doesn't really matter. I'm just some agent in Southern California. No, I've been licensed for 10 years now, and I work Southern California. So I hit 4 counties. We have Los Angeles County, San Bernardino County, Orange County, and Riverside County. I work all 4 of them. I mean, I don't really specialize in listings or buyers. I kind of do both. I just love helping people buy and sell. So that's really my focus. If you need to help buy or sell, then that's really it.
So in your opinion, is the housing market done? Is it the boom over? Is the game over?
No.
Game over. That's it. It's done. The market's just going to crash and burn. What is your opinion, my friend?
No, the short answer is no, it's not done. It's just not.
I'm not maybe I didn't get 30 offers on a house. I got 10,
Yeah.
It's still an incredibly good market. I've said it before on other live streams and I'll say it again, that if we were to take out, oops, where did Dan go? This happens to him on his other show too. Let's add him back to the stream, Eddie. If you take out the 2020 housing market, and you just move this to 2021, they would say this is a housing boom. This is a housing boom. They wouldn't even be saying that the party's over, but because there isn't as many people clamoring for houses. And I think in smaller markets, they're probably feeling it a little bit more than bigger markets, but I'm in rural parts of Louisiana. I'm between Baton Rouge and New Orleans. And that isn't.
So let me ask you this. So before all this, before a year and a half ago, what was your average days on market? Like in a normal market, flat market, what's your average days on market for your area?
45 days.
Okay. So 45 days. And what is it right now? Not 6 months ago when it was hot right now.
17 days.
Okay. So right there, even in where'd you say your more rural, more away from the big cities area, it's still, 17 days is crazy fast. And I don't know how you guys do it, but what we do is, we keep our houses active, meaning our team, we keep our houses active until we're done negotiating and we have an accepted offer. Then it goes off the market into pending. That stops the ticker on days on market. And we're at 5 or 7 days, something like that right now.
Yeah, we do have some houses on the market that have been sitting for a long time, but they're pieces of garbage.
Right.
I'd like to welcome Remodel Media as a new channel member. Thank you so much for becoming a member. That gives you a special icon in the chat when you
What?
Yes,
That's
I know.
awesome.
I know. It gives him a special icon, and as he's a member longer, he gets new icons every month. So, yay! Thank you for becoming a member. Anybody that has a question during this live stream, please just type the word question, and Dan and I will be answering them for you. We're also live on Facebook as well. So if you haven't joined my Facebook page, it's Kristina Smallhorn, your real estate whisperer on Facebook. So anyways, back to what we were talking about.
Yeah.
I know that these headlines, they sell a lot of newspapers and they get a lot of clicks, and we're all a little guilty of trying to get people to click on it, but the housing boom isn't over. And I know a lot of people, especially some of the people that have been waiting to buy a house, are waiting for some kind of crash. When do you think there might be a leveling out in home prices? Do you think it's going to be a year from now? Is it going to be 6 months from now?
So if you read a lot of stats like I do, so what I didn't mention is that I host a show. If you know the other half, I think you had Ray on the show, didn't you?
A few times, a couple
Yeah.
times. Mm-hmm.
By the way, thank you for having me. This is awesome because Ray's like he knows everything and he's just a brilliant, brilliant man. And then I'm just the good looking one. So
the eye candy.
I'm just here to be the eye candy anyway. But we're both stats and facts type of guys. So if you really, really read into it, there's a guy that is on the show every now and then through Clubhouse when we do our show every Wednesday at 10 a.m. my time here in California, 1 p.m. on the Cheese Toast. Logan Motasami, and he says what we have is we've been talking about millennials a lot, but now they're getting like prime buying age. So here's the reason I'm saying that. We're going to have the largest contingent of buyers over the next 2 to 3 years, and there's still no inventory coming on the market. So I don't think the frenzy is going to keep going. Like this has been insane. And during a pandemic, like who would have ever predicted that? No one, not one person predicted that. Mm-mm. But I see it staying like a strong seller's market for quite a while. I don't know. It's really tough to say because new construction has to catch up, which they're way, way behind. And more and more people need to list. And then when this, we can talk about the eviction moratorium a little bit, but when forbearance ends, I think you talked about it or you have a video about it. I was watching videos on your channel, peeping your page, doing some research. But there's when the forbearance ends, are more bank-owned property is going to come into the market, which will help. But is it going to be enough? So to me, a year seems quick to me for it to be a normal, quote unquote, normal market.
What I've always said, and I will maintain this, is that let's just say every single house that's 2.2 million homes that are still in forbearance at this time. If every single one of them was to go into foreclosure, that still is an average of 427 days before they actually hit the market. And that's if they flooded the market at one time, which they would never do in the first place. We still have, that's over a year, and that still is a process. And that's if every single one of them didn't have any kind of glitch in getting foreclosed on, which every single house always has some kind of glitch. Always, and forget it if they went into bankruptcy or they got divorced in that time, because then it can take up to like 10 years. There was a house around the corner that took almost 10 years before it ever hit the market because they went through bankruptcy and they got divorced. So it was a nightmare.
And what we need to remember is that all of these people, even if they're in forbearance right now, they're likely sitting on equity right now because just since the beginning of the year, they have another 33 grand. Well, that stat is 2 months old at this point, a month and a half old at this point. But in the first 6 months of the year, just if you bought January 1st, you've made on an average nationally $33,000. So if you bought in, which a lot of people did in 11, 12, 13, and then it was just like, dude, this market's insane. I'm just going to hold on to this house. You're likely sitting on quite a bit of equity. And even if you haven't paid your mortgage in the last year and a half, you can still sell and walk with cash. You don't have to go to
in some cases, it depends. Right. Because I've had that happen where we were supposed to close and he literally took the forbearance when we went under contract, and he was underwater after that. Yeah.
So he was close on his equity, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that too would be a large chunk of people, that would probably just can sell and not have to get foreclosed on, but those situations may be few and far between. Cause let's say they walk with a bunch of equity. What do they do with it? They can't go rent right now. There's no rentals available.
I know. And that brings me to another point, since do we have any questions coming up, Eddie? If you want to throw one up. Yeah. Okay. So Eddie's going to put up a question. It says, question, do you expect to deal with more foreclosures in the next year or so? It's going to take more than a year. I was saying, it's be 427 days. The one thing that I will say is that there is the landlords are finally singing in the streets, because it looks like they're going to be able to evict people that haven't been paying through this whole time during the pandemic. And I know a lot of California. Well, it depends on your area. I was just going to say, in some areas, they were able to evict for other reasons, because in some cases they started messing up the properties and everything else. I really felt for a lot of these landlords who had people that weren't paying, and they have a mortgage payment too. I mean,
Right.
like, they don't own these homes free and clear. I mean, everybody has
Right.
this idea that this landlord doesn't have a mortgage payment. And in many cases, a lot of people have home loans on them, and they're not at the same interest rate. They're not even the same structure as their typical 30-year loan. I
Right.
mean, so one of mine's a balloon payment because it's 2 properties on one. So it, like, every 5 years I have to refinance this stupid
Yeah.
house. So, I mean, you gotta, you know, you have to look at it from the landlord's perspective. This wasn't a great thing. And there was no reprieve for them. Sure, they could
Right.
apply for PPE loans, but a lot of cases they were denied, or that there was no money left. So it took
Or
a
it's
lot
not
of,
getting to them.
it's not getting to them.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I know that, like, some people in the chat might be really ticked off at me right now, but I don't think that this ending, it was a bad thing. I think it was time.
Right.
It's more than time. A lot of people needed to start paying up. Shut up or pay up, because it's too long. Too long.
It is. It's very, very unfortunate. I totally agree, but it needs to happen, because those, like, if you own a home and then during the stock market interest rates are at 2.5, you buy another one, you're going to have a different type of loan. You need to pay those off. So it needs to happen, or the money that's been given out federally needs to get to these people. It's just not. And here in California, it's been extended. The eviction moratorium has been extended to September 30th, and a package. I think it's $5+ billion that's been allocated to the landlords.
Oh, thank God.
Right. So it's to the landlords. If they don't want it, then it can go to the renters. But the relief is there. So I know people have things to say about California, but I think it's because they're jealous. We don't, we have 300+ days of summer. But anyway.
And wildfires and earthquakes and
yeah, all that stuff. It's fun to live here, I got to tell you. But this was a good move, and because it helps, again, like, yes, let's help the people get through this, but at some point we got to think about the landlords. And what about those people that own 5-10 properties? They're just hemorrhaging money. They need help.
They do need help. So Eddie did throw up a question, and I didn't get to it yet. So Julie says, do you see inflation, gas prices, or drought conditions slowing down the market? What is your opinion, Dan?
No. I mean, here in California, no, and our gas is astronomical. I don't even want to tell you what I paid yesterday for gas, for 1 gallon gas. My actual daughters both were in the car, and they went, dude, really? Like, that's how much a gallon of gas is? And then they did the math, like 17 gallons to fill up my minivan was whatever, they're like, dude. I was like, yeah, just that amount of money that you haven't made in your entire life, I have to pay, every week or so in gas. But I don't think so, because specifically here in California, we are just kind of used to that stuff. That's just, we've always paid more for gas, but we have higher wages in the different industries that we have here in the state as well. So I don't think that's going to slow it down. And inflation, I don't know.
Why I don't think. Yeah, well, I don't think inflation is going to make the housing prices drop. It does just the opposite.
Yeah, yeah.
If gas, everything else goes up, so do houses. I mean, if anything has taught us from the last housing bubble that we had, when we had inflation, housing prices went up too.
Yeah. Well, and hopefully, when other things are going up, wages are going up as well. I know they're pushing for a higher federal minimum wage. I know that's all, part of the ongoing discussion, but hopefully those things are rising too, which again, that keeps the housing market going. We need something. I've been saying on the show for a very long time, we need something to benefit sellers, to incentivize sellers. What are we doing for sellers?
So in the last crash, when they wanted people to buy, they had all these incentives. The federal government did for first-time home buyers. They gave them, first it was a taxable money, then it was untaxable money, and that basically gave new home buyers the down payment to buy a house. And then right before the current administration was going in, he had mentioned the fact that he was going to do our first-time home buyer program again, and everybody was screaming like, "What are you thinking?
Yeah,
we don't need that." So they backtracked that. They did backtrack that. But I want to give you I always talk about housing affordability. This is an interesting statistic. So in 1970, the median income for an American was $9,870, and the median home value was $17,000.
Right. When is this? 70?
1970, right?
Yeah.
So with the income inflation rate and the growth rate at 3.6 4% of incomes, the median home would be right now at $61,966. So the median income today is about $78,000, and the median cost of a home is $295,300.
Wow.
So if you literally took it out on paper, you're like, wait a minute, you can do the mortgage calculator. If you didn't put in any kind of home taxes or anything else, you're like, well, that kind of balances out. But then you're not putting in the fact that how much actually the food has cost an increase, the mileage on gas. I mean, all the things that like they didn't have to worry about in 1970 that we have to worry about. Medical payments alone can cripple.
They didn't have this back then either. These are expensive.
Yeah. And let me just put it this way too, because I get this in the comments, if you millennials stop buying Starbucks coffee, then they can afford a house. Now, let's just be realistic here.
Yeah. Well, because we can get in a whole conversation about, student loans and all that stuff. What it cost back in 1970 versus what it costs now. It's almost not worth going to college because you're just going to have 20 years of debt after you get out of college. But that's a whole separate.
I will say this though, if you live in this is a really cool thing about Louisiana. If you're ever thinking about moving to Louisiana, in the state of Louisiana, they have something called TOPS. So if you get the grade point average, they will help pay for your college.
That's
so my
awesome.
my daughter's college, which would have cost me $34,000, I think $38,000, something like that, $34,000. Now per semester is only costing us $2,000. I'm like,
that is awesome.
She'll be going to law school. So I'm like, I literally was sweating until they were like, let me run the TOPS. And then they're like, here's the tuition. I'm like, holy cow. Thank you. Thank you. So like, if you're thinking about moving to Louisiana and you have college age kids, move like the year before they turn their senior year, if they can handle that, and move to Louisiana so you can get TOPS.
I love that.
Question. Do you think that we'll have another stimulus check? Ooh, that's a good question. What do you think?
I hope not.
I can't see it. I just can't see it happening, mostly because the economy is still running. I mean, we have this, I call it the pandy. It's still in the background. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. We're on Rona 2.0 now.
Yeah, but yes, 2.0. The difference is now that there is mitigation. We know what we need to do. And I don't think they're going to be shutting down any economies anytime. It would have to be pretty darn disastrous for them to shut down a state again. I cannot see it happening. And they're going to keep that economic wheel churning here in the United States. That's my feeling. I don't think we're going to get another stimulus check. And I just see it happening.
The reason I say I hope not is just because, everywhere I look, driving around on showings or listing appointments, everywhere I look, every place is hiring right now. Every place. And every place, depending on, LA County is different than where I live in San Bernardino County, but places are booming. Places are back to normal. People are still masked up, but business is going. And, in some places like LA, it was shut down. It was ghost towns in a lot of areas. It's all back now. The farmers markets are back. People are hiring. Things are going again. So at some point, we got to say, look, your job is back somewhere. You have to go look for it and you have to go find it, because there were some instances where people are making more money unemployed than when they were employed, which is.
And that depends on your state.
Yeah.
That depends on your state, because here in the state of Louisiana, you had to, your work thing that said that you were let go. It had to state that you were let go because of the for the pandy. And that isn't, if you just got regular unemployment if you didn't. So here in Louisiana, you couldn't just quit your job and say, I'm not going to work anymore. Forget it. Cause I can get more money. That doesn't work here.
Right.
And if you see a business closed here in Louisiana, let's just say a big chain store, they're not closed. It's temporary closed because they had a little outbreak of COVID. Not going to say where my daughter works, but that's what happened. Why not tell the price of gas? Don't leave us hanging. What's the price of gas in California?
$4.25. I think I paid $4.30.
Oh, wow. I think we're like right at $3 here.
See, that's crazy for where you are then. Usually I would assume it's in the twos somewhere, low twos.
Yeah,
right?
It's like $2.75, I think.
Right.
I don't drive much, so I rarely fill up my gas tank.
Yeah. Well, and I don't want to go off topic here, but like the prices of barrels of gas and all this stuff, like when you really look into it, gas is just expensive because they can make it expensive. That's it.
Oh yeah, it's total manipulation.
It's total manipulation, and we pay it. That's it. So
You know what? I want us to talk about manipulation because I get this a lot. They say that real estate agents are the reason why the home prices are what they're at because we make them pay more. Please straighten this out because I've said it a million times.
Yeah, that we're real estate agents are to blame. I mean, so this is in case you don't know, if you're not an agent, this is a free and fair market. It's literally supply and demand. So if I put 10 out of 10, meaning condition, if it's a beautiful property, I put it on the market, I list it where I believe it's going to sell. I get 50 offers over asking. That's the market telling me that I missed the price, which I'll admit I'm wrong all day long. If I list something at 500 and it goes for 550 after 50 offers, I'm fine with being wrong, and I'll admit that. But I list it where I think it's going to sell, and that's my job. Is this? I'm kind of guessing what the market is going to do, and guessing over the last year and a half has been difficult. It's been, and there are a lot of agents that are like, no, it could sell for this. Let's list it there. That's not my philosophy.
Me neither.
And I just did it again on a fixer that we had listed the last week. And I underpriced it a little bit. I just wanted to make sure that, remember, my job as a listing agent is to sell that house for my client. That's my job. Okay. Now it's my job to get it out there and let the market do. The market means the buyers. Let them do what they're going to do. So, it's, and Ray says it on the show, and I love how he says it, like if you justify as a buyer, you're going to be here, maybe this is your forever home. Maybe this is your 5 to 10 year home. But if you can justify getting this beautiful home for 20 grand more than you would pay maybe a year and a half ago, if you're okay with that, then let's do that. But it's the buyers making this decision. If I walk into a supermarket and there's a bunch of beautiful looking fruits on there, but they're kind of gross tasting and no one wants them, that's going to be cheaper, right? But if a buyer's willing to pay, or anything in any, supply and demand world, if anyone's willing to pay what we're asking, then they bid it up. That's what they do. So we're here to sell houses and help people buy houses. But if we're doing our job right, we've made it clear that we're doing it at the will of our clients, if that makes sense.
Exactly. All right, Eddie, I see some questions have rolled in, so go ahead and throw those up. Liberty Return says, wages here in Utah have actually lowered here in Utah, considering inflation, while housing prices have doubled in 5 years. What do you think the markets, what do you think markets like this will crash? I'm not very familiar with the Utah market, but I do have a friend. I could probably bring him on. His name is Joe Eves, and he's a real estate agent out there. He'll probably have a little bit more to tell you about the Utah market. I was just out there not too long ago. Matter of fact, it's beautiful, beautiful country. And they actually had rain, which was strange. This was in southern Utah, though, like closer to Arizona, total desert, 107 degrees, no humidity. All right, Eddie, you got another question for us? Oh, where did he go? Oh, he had to walk away. Huh? Hold on. Eddie, okay. Oh, there we go. What happened?
It's just Eddie and I are working out. If I leave, don't worry about it. I'll be right back. Eddie and I got it. We're good. We're good.
Oh, okay. You guys have like a behind the scenes relationship I don't know about.
Yep. Well, in StreamYard, there's a private chat. So we've been talking. We're good.
Oh, I'm paying attention to my guests, so I'm not looking at the private chat.
I know. I'm multitasking. So yeah. So just so you guys know, there's a thing. My camera resets itself every 30 minutes to keep it from overheating. So I have to physically go push a button, which usually I'm much closer, but this is a different setup. So I'm kind of far away. So I got to walk off. That's why. There you go. There's a little behind the scenes of the live show world. Anyway, back to it.
Okay. Russelin says, do you expect prices to get higher, or are they going to stay the same or go down? What do you expect?
Me personally?
Do you think the rate of growth that we saw in 2021, like at even the beginning of 2021, is going to continue into 2022?
I think it's okay. So going back to the cooling, the whole point of this video, right? Like, I don't think cooling is wrong, or I don't see a leveling happening. A leveling would take a lot. Remember, a correction is defined by a 10% change in prices. So something worth 500 grand would have to be worth 450 overnight for a correction to happen. And by the way, that's not a crash, you know? So going back to the cooling thing, I do think it's cooling. Like instead of those 25 offers we're seeing, I mean, you know, still 10 to 15, but they're more legit offers and we're still seeing things get bid up or whatever. So I think it's going to be a minute before it actually levels. A cooling, sure, but it's the difference between like putting your hand on a hot pan and burning it and then letting that pan cool down for 5 minutes and still burning your hand. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah, it's still pretty, you know,
it's still pretty hot. It's still pretty crazy. And I wouldn't mind if it chilled a little bit because I want, you know, I love working with buyers too. So I wouldn't mind if it chilled a little bit, you know? So
this was insane. This was crazy. This past year was terrible. Honestly, I didn't like it for the buyers and it was insanity. I saw some crazy things happen, but I will say the type of buyers that were buying homes their credit was strong and they had great down payments and they were willing to pay over. So, I mean, I just don't see a big crash. The one thing that some people could look forward to is if there is an eviction, there's a wave of evictions of people. Some of these landlords may decide to put their houses on the market. Will that cause a big, giant increase of homes for sale? No, we have too much. We need so many homes because even like I'm actually doing a video on this now and it's like affordable housing crisis. People love to point fingers at all sorts of different groups of people. Well, now the new whispers, it's the baby boomers' fault that we don't have enough affordable homes. That's their fault. It's just them.
Yeah, I mean, you got to blame someone, I guess.
Yeah, so I'm basically taking that argument and showing exactly what exactly is happening with baby boomers and why there is not affordable homes. But I love that these news articles love to point fingers just to get clicks, but we'll break down the raw facts.
For the longest time, it seemed like we were every week on our show on the Bearded Man of Real Estate. We were talking about millennials did something, millennials did this, millennials did that. And then it was like, so I've been talking about, I call it the silver wave, you know, is when the boomers decide to sell, you know, and for the longest time, it was like you have the big 2-story house where the family would come, then you would sell and you would right size and you'd get the single story because your knees hurt. You don't want to go up and downstairs. It's too many rooms to clean. But now it's switched to more like, well, let's stay in it or let's sell and go to a bigger house so more people can stay here with us, with the grandparents, you know? So I think it's switched, but I don't know. You know, they've been there in their homes forever and it's their family stone. Why not hold on to it? So I think this silver wave is going to take a lot longer than we're all expecting. And again, that won't, even if they all listed tomorrow, still wouldn't be enough.
In other countries, it's not uncommon for homes to stay generational. It's not like people don't sell their homes. They just give it to the next generation. So we just do things a little differently here. So maybe that culture has changed. Question, are you noticing a lot of apartment complex increasing rent by $500? Is that normal? Is it legal that jump that high in 1 year to the next? So that would be depending on your state's regulations when it comes to apartment pricing. For instance, this is one sector of the housing, which is terrible, that if you are in a manufactured home park and you rent the land underneath it, there is absolutely no regulation in, I think, 49 states when it comes to this. So they can jump the rent. You could be paying $150 1 year and 6 months later, they can increase it to $300. People that generally live in manufactured homes, they are on very limited or fixed incomes. So when they jump it up that high, they're counting on the fact, the people that have bought the manufactured home park, they're counting on the fact that you'll move out because they know that you can't afford to move the manufactured home itself. And so they want you to move out. They're hoping that you get foreclosed on your manufactured home. And then they plan on renting it out. That's their whole game plan. There's a guy named Frank Rolfe that does this. It's called a Mobile Home University. And he teaches people how to basically pillage people so they can squeeze every penny out of them in order for them to live there, which is just a sick way of doing business. Oof. But you'd have to check with your local area when it comes to rents and what they can increase it by. Now, I know that if you're signing a new lease, they can charge any rent that they want to, even if somebody that's already lived in the apartment charges $600 and then they renew their lease, they may have a cap on how much they can increase that rent. But if you go in to buy or rent a new lease and it's now $1,000, they can charge whatever they want. I mean, you're a brand new leasee. That's it.
Yeah, I don't think there's any ceiling on what they can charge to a new lessee. I guess they are, but
lessee.
lessee.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is what they, and then we do in LA, there's a lot of rent controlled areas. So there's, and I have clients that just bought and they stayed and saved money because they were in rent control. They got grandfathered in. So they pay, gosh, it was something insane, like $1,100 a month to live in Silver Lake. And if you don't know Silver Lake, it's very, it's hipsters is where the hipsters came from. Silver Lake. It's where they rose from Silver Lake, but it's a really, really cool area in LA. Just north of downtown. A lot of writers and directors and stuff from Hollywood live that way.
And skinny jeans.
Lots of skinny jeans. Lots of hip fashion.
A lot of hair gel.
Yeah. A lot. There's just a lot going on.
Self tanner.
Anyway, yeah. If you've ever heard of the band Silver Sun Pickups, that's where they're from.
Gotcha.
But anyway, so they were in. I mean, $1,100 a month when they could easily have been paying $3,000. So they're just like, dude, let's stay. We're just going to stay here and save money. And now they bought a house. But now when they move out, they're going to move out at the end of August. That landlord can charge literally whatever they want.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
There's no control on that. Question. From S says, do you think the great resignation is going to impact the housing market due to the lot of people expected to change their employment?
That's like people.
Oh, I know it might impact where people buy and sell. Okay, so this happened in some areas that were very expensive to live. I'll even say in California and in Colorado and stuff like that. So there are people that work jobs like that were like waiters and bartenders and jobs that are a little less paying. So they were basically trying to, just get ahead in the world doing these jobs until they get to their next step in life.
Right.
Well, once the pandemic happened, they were like, forget this, I'm just going to go back home where it's a little less expensive to live, do basically the same type of job. I can live with mom and dad for a while and we'll see what happens. I know that some employers, and it has happened here, that they are willing to say, you know what, maybe we weren't really necessarily charging this fair wage. So we're willing to now we're willing to pay you a little bit more to come work for us. Some employers have not. So my daughter had that happen where they were like, nope, we're not going to do it. So, we'll see what happens. I think a lot of people realized, and I noticed that here or even around here, you can do a lot of things from home. A lot of things that people would have considered their side hustle ended up being their main hustle during this time. And they're like, I don't have to work 9 to 5. I can do this job at home and make nearly as much, if not more, because I'm not driving back and forth to work. So I think we're going to see and feel the repercussions of what has happened because we were forced to work from home for a year, that I think a lot of big companies are going to be changing the way they do business. And that it may not even be necessarily a bad thing. I think that working from home is good. It's good for the environment too. Less cars on the road. Less cars on the road. Do you feel the same, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great question, by the way, the great resignation. I've never heard it put that way, because to me, it would be more, so those jobs we spoke about, like the waiters and waitresses and baristas and stuff, in certain areas, it got so expensive to live, they had to move out, so then they had to drive in 45 minutes, but then their jobs were shut down. So then they're like, well, what do we do? And it was like, yeah, let's go back home and save or do whatever. And let's reassess, or maybe start looking for jobs in whatever field I went to school for. But I think part of that is also all these people that were like, wait, my job is cool with me living wherever I want now. And a lot of people call it the mass exodus from California, which it's not. I wish that would happen because there'd be less traffic for me to deal with. Right? I wish there would be mass. I wish there would, to have 30 million people here would be great. But anyway, just all of a sudden people, if they didn't like it here, they're like, well, I can still have my job there, but live in Texas, live in Arizona, live in Idaho, live in Florida, wherever, So I think, but I don't know if it's going to have an effect on the market. I think it has had an effect on the market, but more in regards to what people are looking for, not necessarily crash or, because I know we're trying to keep it centralized around, is the housing crash coming or is it cooling or whatever? I don't see that happening.
Well, it isn't going to affect home prices too much. That's that. I mean, I just can't see it. It was going to affect it in one way or the other, because those are the people that generally rent, that are working these different types of jobs. But I love that. I actually wrote it down, the Great Resignation. I'm going to actually look into that a little bit more to see how it could affect some housing.
Yeah, do a video around that. If there's enough data behind it, it might be a cool, fun. It's a different way to say it. And it's a different. I
love it.
Yeah,
love
it's cool. So that was great. It was just S. So thank you, S.
I appreciate S. Veronica says, question for Dan. Where in SB County do you live or conduct your business from?
The actual city I live in is called Rancho Cucamonga.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Rancho Cucamonga. That sounds like a dirty word.
Yeah, that's where I live. So that's where I live and work. And then I just work, I have like a pretty good net. Like I won't go somewhere if I don't know the area. I won't work it because I don't think it's fair to the buyer or the seller. If I don't know it, I don't want to work it. But I've lived and worked all over Southern California. So there's a lot of areas I know really well, because California does get nooky, meaning you have to know the ins and outs of that.
PG show, Dan.
Nook-ish.
Okay.
Yeah. I could say niche. It's very niche. You have to know.
There you go.
To get super fancy, you have to kind of know why this area is cool. When people are like, dude, why would I want to live there? Well, because, and there's a lot of areas like that in Southern California, but yeah, I live in San Bernardino County, which is Rancho Cucamonga. And then I have an office, and then we have offices in Murrieta, if you know Southern California, Murrieta, and Hemet, San Jacinto.
I just like the name of your town that you live in.
Yeah.
Question. Just found out 3 days before closing on one house and buying another that I have a second lien from HUD that I never affected my credit. How come?
Oof.
That is, well, first of all, how did they just find that out? Because if they did a proper title search prior to closing, which should have been done days ago, I mean, unless they had a very short period of time.
So on one house, is that the house she listed and then buying another, apparently? Because the preliminary title search should have found that.
Immediately. Yeah. It says, I just found out 3 days before closing on one house and buying another that I, meaning the person, says, I have a second lien from HUD that I never affected my credit. How come? I wonder what the second lien from HUD would be for. Like, what would HUD put a lien on their house for? What would be unpaid? What would be unpaid? I would, that would you would have to talk to that title attorney to see exactly what that's about. Because there might be some kind of error somewhere.
Well, did you use a HUD loan or something on the first purchase, or so? I don't know why HUD would have.
And all I can think is if the previous house, she had a HUD loan and then she refinanced it and they never closed out the loan correctly in the tax record. So that could be possibly it.
Yeah. So, and do you want to tell everyone, for the lay people that don't know what HUD is?
Housing and Urban Development.
Yeah.
Federal Housing, Urban and Development.
It's a federal department, Housing and Urban Development.
Yes. Yeah. Who was it that ran it last? Was it Ben Carson that ran it last? The dude. Ben Carson, right?
Yeah, Ben Carson.
Last administration. I can't remember who the guy is now.
Yeah, Ben Carson has a picture of himself on his own wall with Jesus. It's awesome.
How cool is that?
I'm not kidding.
I wonder how he got that picture. Anyways, question.
He was there.
Question. It's the bank appraisal driving prices. Junk, swamp overpriced, seeing rotten wood, awful. N and S corps buying up, can't compete. It's a bank. So the bank works much like us as real estate agents. When we look at an appraisal or we look at the housing, the house, there's a neighborhood, and we'll just say this is the neighborhood, and there's 4 houses that sold that pretty much look like your house. So this one sold for $450, this one sold for $475, and then this one sold for $500,000. They average out those prices, and then they come up with the appraised value price. In some cases, in my area, the appraised value has actually come in under, but the people that are willing to buy it will pay over the amount that it is.
The difference,
they have been willing to do that.
Can you guys write that into a contract, by the way? Like, can the buyer write in, like, we'll cover 20 grand up to this price?
Yes. And then they like, that's what they've been doing. They'll cover it up to this price. I actually, at the beginning of the pandemic, this was so crazy. At the beginning of the pandemic, I had a client that was purchasing a house, and she was like, it didn't appraise. And I'm like, she had to come up with an extra, like, I think it was like 10,000 or something like that dollars. And I was like, holy crap. I'm like, don't do this. Don't do this. She's like, I really want the house. I really want the house. I'm like, so I called the seller, and I'm like, because it was a for sale by owner, Joy. And I said, look, your house didn't appraise. She goes, I don't care. And I was like, well, the thing is that this is an FHA loan. It's the appraisal is going to stay with the house. She says, I'll just hold off for 6 months and sell it 6 months from now. I don't care. Yeah. And I was like, your house is empty. You have somebody sitting here right now. So she took $2,000 off and only made her pay $8,000. But this girl like cashed in her 401k. I gave up a small portion of my commission, and her parents gave her a gift. So it was like insanity for her to get a house. I was like, what are people doing? But then it continued all the way through, and I never thought that would happen. This is some kooky stuff that I saw.
Yeah. So the actual appraisal process, I don't see it has changed much. You know, what the difference though is that I have seen, I guess earlier in the Rona 2.0, I think there was early on, there was some big worries, like when things started going crazy. So probably by like June of last year, maybe July, I think appraisers were worried that things were going to go too high and too crazy and too fast, that it was going to be quote unquote their fault that they led to a market crash. Because remember, we didn't know, if jobs were going to be
blamed. They were blamed with the last housing crash, big time. Right. And a lot of appraisers lost their license because of it.
Right. So I think there was a lot of that worry. So during this Rona, we've seen a lot of appraisal issues, a lot. I don't know if you guys have there. And I wouldn't say more than average or less than average, just we've seen, a handful, a good chunk of them. But they're still taking into account market conditions. They're just looking at the market and saying, does what this person offer does it justify us paying for? Because remember, it's their money that they're giving, combined with whatever down payment you're putting. So it's they're saying, yeah, this justifies it. The market's here. And I have heard them say, like, if something gets 120 grand over asking, they will take into account where it was listed at and go, wait, why was it listed there? Why did they think it was this price? Even though the market says it's worth 1.2 million, why'd you list it at 1.0? Whatever. I can't do quick math. Sorry, I've had a beer.
I've seen people do this though in our area. I'm like, why would you do that? You're intentionally trying to cause a bidding war. That's wrong. And I didn't do that with any of mine. I just think that's
and I base everything that I do around, like, let's make sure we get the most eyeballs. But let's, like, if something's worth 400, let's not list it at 300 knowing it'll never go for 300. That's not fair. That just hurts people's feelings. We don't want to do that. But so I have seen appraisers take that into account. And then the thing is, though, like specifically in LA, Los Angeles, there's a lot of cash and a lot of people paying, 150 over appraisal, just cash, because they don't care. They're just going to hold on to it forever. So,
I know. Eddie, go ahead. I did see, go ahead and put up CC Moons because question, realtor ethics. If you receive, say, 60 offers, the price is clearly too low. Are you allowed to cancel the offering and relist at a higher price the next day? I don't know what your laws are there in California.
Yeah, you can, but if you get 60 offers, that's you just accept the best ones. And for me personally, so I wouldn't take it off the market, but what I may do is during the process adjust it just so other prospective buyers are like, oh, okay. And hopefully that translates that the price was increased by 30 grand because we have interest at that 30 grand. But my philosophy is just let's comb through these offers, and it's not always the highest one. On this last listing, I had one that was insane, $75,000 above asking on a fixer. It's not worth that. I know it's not worth that. And it was also a horribly written offer. And it was almost offensive that, and the system we use, everything presents directly to the seller. So it doesn't have to go through me. They see everything, but it was almost offensive how this offer was written. And it was just unrealistic. They were straight up trying to buy their way into escrow, and then they were just going to negotiate around it. But
That's what
That,
they've been doing.
that's
And
unfortunate. So we would just go into escrow with the strongest offer, not always the highest offer, the strongest offer that has the strongest possibility of closing, benefits, and this is a seller's market. So we're going to try to negotiate it to where it benefits my seller, right? And if they're buying, then you got to get them some time in the house, maybe a rent back or something. And then you throw it into escrow and close it, and then everyone sees the closed price. That's kind of how we do it.
CC Moon says, do you think a flex work schedule will stay for 2021? I do. I think for bigger companies, I definitely think it's going to. I definitely do. I want to say thank you to Florence there with the $50 super chat. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. If you have anything to ask, you can go ahead and just type in anything, but I appreciate that $50 super chat. Whoop, whoop. All right, awesome. Eddie, go ahead and put up that next question, please, my friend. Oh, he's saying, hold on one second. I can hear him in the background. If anybody doesn't know, my executive producer is also my executive husband.
I like that you at least gave him the executive title. That's awesome.
Yes, it is. S says, not a question. The Great Resignation has more to do with those working from home during the pandemic. And some bosses expect you to be at the office with no exceptions. This has been causing some movement. I've seen it. I know exactly what you're talking about. I've seen it on social media. I've seen it through Twitter and TikTok and even Facebook. I know what you're talking about, and it should be interesting because before this, like I said, there was lots of people that were like, I can't afford to live in these high price areas. I'm just going to go live in a less expensive area because I can do this job pretty much anywhere. So, I think it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out because some employers are going to be sorely disappointed that people don't want to work at the office anymore. All right, let's go ahead and throw up another question. Are more people moving to rural places? If so, will cities drop? Can I say,
yes,
let me answer this. Yes. Okay. So at the beginning of the pandemic, people were like, especially like I talked to a real estate agent in Boston and they were like, people are like moving out of their apartments. They're buying out like towards the Cape. They're going over to Rhode Island. They're getting out of the city. So a lot of like apartments and places that would have been hot and popping were like ghost town dead. Like people were like leaving. And then it was about 4 or 5 months into it. People were like, forget it. I'm going to go back to the city. I mean, this isn't going to last forever. So I think originally, yes, there was this mass exodus out of the major cities into rural areas, which did cause a lot of areas that typically wouldn't have gone up as much as they did go up a lot. It became more desirable, of course, made the prices go up higher. But I think that too is leveling out because people are going to have to drive back and the cars are going to go back on the road. So I don't know.
Well, I do. That's why I asked you the question at the beginning, your average days on market, and they're 45 down to 17. And now Ray is a different animal. So his days on market has always been less than the average agent because he's not an average agent, but he's in Central Arkansas in Little Rock. And their days on market, I mean, they went to minutes on market. And in a more of a smaller market, this would be like Yankees versus like, the Tampa Bay Devil Rays, like big versus small market. And that small market is having minutes on the market. Even the madness was happening there, and I think what this has done too, which is a huge positive, is people have looked out to more rural areas like, wait, there's so much more life to live out there. I can literally wake up in a forest. I can wake up in the mountains. I can wake up in just a beautiful backdrop as my day. And then I can telecommute. I can work from home kind of thing. So I think, it's changed our perspective instead of just go, because cities, at least here in LA, it's fast. And I think it's just nonstop stress that we all need to take a step back from.
That's why I started talking about a lot more about like tiny homes and buying land for tiny homes and alternative housing, because a lot of people don't want to be like, I got so many calls. I do not want to be around people anymore. Where's I want a biggest piece of dirt you can throw a tiny home on. I'm like, okay, let's do it. Go ahead and throw that question up, Eddie. I saw him pop it up. Where did he go? Eddie.
He went, he's actually executive producing like multiple shows. You know that, right?
Yeah, here it is. Old Man Dan says, I refuse to get into a bidding war. If the asking price is fair, that's all I would offer. Seems like gone are the days of sensible buyers offering a below asking. Dan, I'm gonna tell you something, Old Man Dan. I just had a seller. We priced the house in line with what the market was dictating at that time. And the buyer that came in was willing to, we were willing to work as a seller for the buyer, but they still offered over asking price, but it wasn't like, it wasn't $100,000. It was enough for the sellers to not have to pay for their own move to move out of the home, which was like perfect for them. And they're like, okay, this is great. So I don't know. I think it's still going to happen. He's probably resetting his camera again. Yeah, I definitely think it's going to happen again, that, sellers are going to get a little bit more realistic and less greedy, because there was a lot of greed, as you know. And I don't necessarily think it's the seller's fault, because if I was selling my home, would I accept the offer that's going to be $100,000 or $50,000, and they're both have the same cash and type of loan type? Of course I'm going to take the $100,000 more.
Right.
In some cases though, some sellers got really vicious, really just plain out vicious. Not in all cases, but some of them did.
Yeah. And that's where like it does. Cause we still have, as agents, we still have a code of ethics to follow. And I think we have to have a personal code of ethics as well. So just straight up taking advantage of buyers, like we kind of discussed 5-10 minutes ago with listing something at 300 when it's really worth 450. You're just getting buyers that go, oh my gosh, that house really, but to directly speak to old man Dan, it's just kind of the market. So yeah. And that's if you're looking for a house and it's not a super duper huge priority and you offer asking, then you may not get that house, but that's fine. That's just where you're at. And maybe it's not the time to buy. Maybe you wait till things cool off a little more and prices settle or whatever. But it's just kind of the market right now, and buyers are doing what they have to get into houses. The reasons behind that are many, but that's just what they're doing. Again, it's a supply and demand thing. And right now there's a huge demand for very little supply. So this is what happens.
And I will say that there's a lot of people that are on the same boat as old man Dan. They're fed up. They're fed up with this market.
100%.
They're like,
buyer fatigue.
Buyer's fatigue. They're stepping back and they're saying, forget it. When people get realistic again, then I'll get back in the housing market. And I don't blame them. When you worked with a couple and they've had like 15 offers rejected and they knew they had good offers, it's like, wow, like what is going on? It's crazy.
Yeah. I get it. I've gotten buyer's fatigue from working with buyers. I mean, usually in a normal market, it's one, maybe two offers that I throw out, because I write really aggressive, really smart, really clean offers, not to yank my own chain, but I write really, really good offers, so it's usually, hey, we get them accepted. We're always in competition. But there was some clients in LA. I mean, I was on 15 offers before they were like, dude, we're going to take a break. It's that much heartbreak stinks. It's hard to stay positive, which I was like, I got you. Just let me know when you're ready again and we'll come back to this. And I was like, no, remember, we as realtors don't get paid until we close. So for me, writing 15 offers and showing them 30, I think they were writing on pretty much every house they saw. We were seeing a lot of awesome houses, but that's a lot of work. But I was like, I understand where you're at. I don't want to push it. This is a big decision for you guys. Let's just chill for a minute, But it's a real thing. It's a real thing. 100%.
Buyer's fatigue.
Yeah. And that might be why the market is cooling right now. It might be the reason. Again, cooling is different than crashing.
Yeah. Totally different thing. It says, okay. Abe says, is asking a seller to pay for a home warranty a pretty standard practice? Yeah.
Yeah.
It used to be the standard the whole time through, but like during the pandy, for some reason, those kinds of things, like we always, for every buyer, we always asked for the seller to pay for a wood destroying insect report. We asked them for a home warranty, and we would ask for a few thousand in closing costs. Those things have been completely eliminated. So then it got to the point where the buyer's like, I'll give my first child, I'll give up 80 days so they can move out. It's just, it was it got to the point of lunacy, but.
Yeah. So for us, it's the same. The home warranty is seller paid. We have a lot of buyers offering with no home warranty, which don't do that. So either your agent can pay for it or the buyer should pay for it, but it needs to be in place. It has to, because it protects you and the seller and both agents. It's a big deal. You need to have that. So again, going back to, it's not always the highest offer that's the best. either someone's paying for that home warranty, and the one we accepted on this last listing had a seller paid one in there. I think we just put ours. I don't know how you guys do it. We just put 600 or less. So depending on the plan they want, it could be $450, $520, whatever, but it should be in place. Do not waive that.
That's exactly what we do. It's $600, and then I have the other agent order it and make sure it's in place, and then it comes out at the closing table, and you get a bunch of paperwork that says you have it under warranty. Now, a lot of people will say that those home warranties are scams. They are not scams. You got to find the right company to work with. In every state has a little bit different experience with different warranting companies. So ask your real estate agent what company that they would recommend, because some of them are not as good as others.
I have major issues with home warranty. So I
use Old Republic here. I like Old Republic. They've been really good to my parents in Florida, and they've been really good for me here in Louisiana.
You got to get what it is with home warranty. This is a pro tip for non-realtors or even realtors. You got to get the rep that's good, that helps, because a lot of reps just kind of go around and cultivate.
Give out koozies.
All they're doing is giving out koozies, go office to office to get business, and you never hear from them again when you have that problem. So make sure your rep works for you and not just, hurting money for their company.
Web Ortel is the guy I always contact here in Louisiana. He's fantastic. Mr. Magic's $5 super chat says, is it worth it using Redfin or Zillow versus a traditional realtor to save money on selling in a hot market, suburbs of San Francisco? This is a Dan question.
He's saying, so I'm, that's Northern California, the middle of.
But you're you're more Californian than I am.
Yeah. You can speak to the Redfin or Zillow. So here's the thing about it. The short version is it's a bait and switch. So Redfin, they say we have no realtor fees, no commissions, which is true, but they have a percentage that they take, and that usually gets up 7, 8, 9, 11% when you go with that. And I think I saw another one that we could get to the question. I don't want to go out of order. I know Eddie's got the order he's going here, but about Zillow values and things. But you got to remember service. Okay. So right now, I'll be honest with you, a house is going to sell. You could, pay $1 and offer it out to the buyer side. A house is still going to sell right now. But is that getting you protected? Do you have a professional negotiator for you, a professional marketer for you? Are you legally protected by a broker? And are you maximizing your dollar and getting yourself into the best situation with a non-realtor or with Zillow, Redfin, Truly, whatever? No, is the answer to those questions. You're not. That's why realtors are in place, because we have to, those of us who are good at our jobs. I have a lot of issues with realtors because I work with us, but those of us who are good at our job and look at this as our profession, this is what we do every single day. We wake up without a job every day, and we have to go find people to work with. We take pride in what we do, and we're there to, we do so much. We're there to counsel you. We're there to market for you. We're there to get you top dollar. We're there to protect you, negotiate for you. So
I always say the best real estate agents are the ones who understand the contracts better than anybody else.
Right. And
if you can spit back to the title company what that contract says and argue your point to a title attorney and you win, then you're a good real estate agent. That's happened to me one time.
So in certain situations, those iBuyer programs, if you don't know what those are, just look up iBuyer, and I'll tell you, it's essentially an investor program. It affects investors more than it does sellers or buyers or agents. In some scenarios, like there's one listed by me by Open Door. That means they bought it. And then they do a little flip. They essentially paint it and put in new carpet, and then they put it back on the market for an astronomical price. Then it sits for 2 weeks. Then they lower it, and then they eventually sell it. But in some scenarios, it can work for you. It can. And even in some scenarios, for sale by owner, it can work for you. But I would still at least seek the counsel of a professional realtor and see, just have it interview us and ask what we do,
She says how Mrs. Lockstar says how accurate do you feel estimates from Zillow are? Okay, so I'm going to show you something. All right, I'm going to make a circle, right? So let's just say this great resignation thing is your house, right? So now it's going to take a 5-mile radius around this circle of all the houses, whether they're manufactured homes, condominiums, townhouses, everything that's sold in your area. And it's going to average all of that out and guesstimate that's how much your house is for. The reason why they market it as a zestimate and not an estimate is because they do not want to be liable by saying that your house was worth more or less. So they rebranded that name as zestimate so they don't get themselves in trouble, because it's not an accurate estimate. It's just a computer generated algorithm that has generated the price of your home. So whenever you want, the CMAs in almost every single market in the United States are absolutely free. You can call up any real estate company and say, this is the address of my house. Can you give me a general estimate of your house? It takes them literally tops 25 minutes to do a little computer generation, say, okay, this is what we came up with here. I don't know if you've done any upgrades, but this is what a roundabout price it will cost. So what do we got here? Eddie Costa says, what's better, 7% interest rate on a 4,000K home or 3% interest rate on an 8,000K home? What's your angle there? I feel like this is
I mean, for me, there you go. That's cool. Oh, nice, dude. This is awesome.
Oh God, I love a good executive producer.
Clanton, are you still watching, buddy? I'm just kidding. He's amazing. Our producer Matt is absolutely amazing. I'm just joking with him. So to me, it's pretty straightforward. It's really, what are you okay with? But you got to kind of, how I kind of break it down to buyers is, if the price is a little bit higher right now, but your interest rate is 3% or less, that's the thing you're paying for 30 years. Now, if you're paying a 7% for 30 years, do the math over those 30 years and just break it down, and any lender will do that for you to see the difference in prices. And for a while before the Rona, a lender that I work with, my main lender, we were going live pretty much every week saying like, hey, interest rates went up, they went down. Here's what that means for your mortgage over the course. Like, we're going past, because anyone, you can do this mortgage calculator or go to any story that'll say mortgage interest rates are at 2.93 right now. But what does that mean over the course of, 30 years? And what does that look like? And then if my budget goes up another 50 grand, what does that look? What does that do to my payment? And what does that look like? Because remember, if you can lock in under 3% for 30 years, that's amazing. So
I remember when I got 7.5 interest rate on my first home, and people were like, that is so good.
Right.
That was like the best. And I was like, yeah, thank you. And then like a couple of years later, they're like, I got 4.75. I'm like, I think I got robbed. I think my mortgage person did a bad job, but it wasn't that. I didn't know, you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah. So I mean, I would say go for the long-term thing, but it's also the market. I think that's an extreme example, the 400 versus 800, but it's really, and then also, are you looking to just live into it for, the time people are living in homes now is less than it used to be, always 5 to 7 years. That's when they're going to look to sell again. Now it's like, geez, 3 to 5, I think. So it's a little shorter now. So what's your goal? What works for you? And then us agents and lenders will run those numbers for you.
Yeah, unless you're a baby boomer, then you're retiring in place. CC Moon says, did the demand for condos, townhomes go up or down during the pandy? I feel, I love that she called it the pandy too. I feel I hear more about single family homes. It's been exactly the same. There was no increase in my area for condos and townhomes as there was any other time. It's been the same. We had a small uptick in cost, but it hasn't been like astronomical like single family dwellings. How about your area?
Same. It's been about the same, but what I've seen a difference is people maximizing their dollar on that condo and because condos, they don't go up, at least in our area. The value doesn't go up like it does on a single family, because there's usually
absolutely not.
I
don't know of an area that does.
Yeah, there's not. They don't. I mean, there are a lot of reasons, but usually it's because there's an HOA. They don't have their own land. The whole kind of thing. There's a lot of reasons to it. So why not maximize that, sell it, and then get yourself your own little 10,000 square foot lot and a house and build your family there. So I've had more of that happen, just because it kind of, for all my clients that bought the condo, 3 to 7 years ago, it was like a no brainer. Like right now it's worth the maximum it will ever be worth. Why not let's sell and and take that and then buy the single family now. Let's do that. Because that was their plan usually. And usually when people are buying a condo, that's not their forever home. They're just getting, a chunk of the American dream. They're owning a house or a condo or a townhome, and they're just going to be here for a little bit until they can save and they get some equity built up. Then they sell and go into the bigger home.
And if you can, and you can not even sell it, but rent it and use that as a income property, and then
100%.
Get your next house. That's a really townhomes and condos are really good income properties. You just have to make sure that the regulations and the covenants allow you to do it. But if you do that, they're great income properties.
Well, M. Canning 51 in 1980 had a 13 3/4 30-year fixed. Whoa, almost 14%, and now we're at 2 point whatever. Yeah.
NICU grad says, do you have a realtor who would work with you if you're under 100K in Northeast Ohio? NICU grad, go ahead and email me and I will connect you with a real estate agent in your area. Be specific on what town you want to live in. I'm connected with over 4,000 agents throughout the country, and I can connect you. My email address is info@KristinaSmallhorn.com. I will be happy to find you a real estate agent. Yay.
Yeah.
Well, Dan, I have kept you here for a solid hour, and this has been really good fun. Do we want to put up a couple more questions before you run away?
I'm down. I cleared my day. I didn't know if we're going to be on for an hour, 6 hours, whatever, because I'll go live on Facebook and stay live for like 6 hours just having fun with people. So I cleared my day. I'm good. Whatever you
good.
need.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Let's throw up another question. Okay. NY Braveheart says, what's the deal with sellers cutting their listing price by $5,000-$10,000 after a few days after listing, and then turn around and ask for the highest offer once offers are in? I'll give you my opinion about this, is that they overpriced it when they put it on the market. Then they went ahead and took $10,000 off. And once they took $10,000 off, they had a group of people that waved in. So now they need their highest and best because they got 10 offers that came in that day. So they need your highest and best. So what is your theory there, Dan?
So there's something that agents don't think of. If you're looking through comps and it says your house, we could sell this for 365. 360. Now, again, let's not lower it to 300, but let's try to go for 349.9 to make sure. Because what if someone has a search and it stops at 350? So that's why on my buyer searches, I always go over by 10 grand, because those houses in that 10,000. Now this market, maybe not as much, but maybe they fall through the cracks. Maybe not as many buyers see them. Maybe they're not getting. And by the way, I don't know why anyone would do this, so I'm merely speculating. But I'm guessing that maybe they missed the mark. Maybe they went for that. Oh, it can totally sell for this. Oh, dang it. We should have priced it at this. And then they did. Now they got the offers, and then most likely got bid up back to where they were listing. But I say it 1,000 times a week. This is what the house is worth, but you don't necessarily get it by pricing it at this. You got to make sure the right buyers see it. Okay. So, so it's possible they just missed. Maybe I don't know, but it seems like, what's the deal with sellers? So it seems like this I don't know what the name is, NY Braveheart. They're seeing it multiple times. So I don't know why we'd see that a lot, but I'm guessing they just missed the price is what they did.
Yeah, just that's what I think too. Just slightly overdid it. And then it caused a frenzy after they did it. Oh, look, somebody said smash the like button. Have you smashed it yet? You got to smash the like button.
Smash that like button.
All right. Do we have? Well, here we go. There it is. Debbie says, "Smash the like button." Okay.
I like that they're saying it for you. You don't have to say it. They're just doing it for you.
I have the best subscribers on the planet. They really
I'm learning
are.
That. I love this. You guys are amazing. Our subscribers. Yeah.
You're in comparison. This is like I have really good subscribers that look out for me.
Yeah, I know we don't have 100. I think you're 121,000, 131,000.
21. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if we're at like 200 and something, but they're all amazing humans. They're great people. We're just short by 120K. That's all.
And just a matter of time. Just
Angelica's like done, smashed.
Done, smash it. Okay, question says my house is paid 140,000 at 6%. Now some houses are 260 at 3%. You think if the house goes down, interests will go up?
Yeah.
Well, that's what always happens. Interest rates go up and housing prices go down.
Yeah. There's other things. Yeah. There's bonds, there's markets, there's other markets that go up and down. But yeah, that would, which I've maintained, I don't think it would hurt to go up to 3.5 and maybe get less of a frenzy, and sellers can go, okay, it's a less chill right now, but now, and then we're getting towards I don't know where we're at with the Rona. Who knows? Depends on what news station you watch, I guess. But, then more sellers come out of that. So I don't think it would hurt to go a little higher on interest rates. And I think I saw a question a while ago, is the Fed kind of falsely keeping our economy going? And I think it's a little bit of that happening. But still, people have to have jobs and they have to be able to get approved for these mortgages. Yeah. So they're working somewhere and they're getting pre-approved. And remember, pre-approvals are much more difficult than they were 15 years ago. So it's still happening. People are still working. So, I think it would help if they went up a little bit. I don't think it would hurt.
You're right, because the credit restrictions are so much higher, because back in the day, you could do this thing called a stated income home loan.
Yeah, I call them liar loans. You just
liar loans. It's a good name for it. So basically, you could walk in with an electric bill and say, "I make $350,000 a year," and you came nowhere near that. But the thought process of these people was like, the housing market's doing so good, I'm just going to lie about this loan. We stay in it for a couple of years and sell it. Well, then all these loans, all these people that had done this, the check was due. The check was due, and then they couldn't get out from underneath it. So that's what happened. There was unqualified buyers that were able to buy a house that should have never bought a house. The weirdest part about that loan package, people don't realize, was offered since Reagan was in administration. It just didn't go into practice where as many people were using it until you got into the 2000s. Yeah. So interesting there. Question: what do you foresee for the Southern California housing market in the last 5 months of 2021? What is this is you. You do this. Instead of going up, it'll go a little flatter up, but it'll still go up. It'll still climb.
I kind of hope it does chill a little bit, just because it's been insane. Honestly, I just want a break. But
I'm with you.
Yeah. I still think it'll still keep going up, just not as crazy as before. I think we're going to start seeing some longer days on market. And again, like the difference between burning hot and hot is, like for you, instead of 17 days on market, we're at 21 days on market. So I think some more buyers are going to get a little more opportunities to get into homes. I mean, I had a buyer a month and a half ago have zero competition and their VA. We were the only offer. They 100% missed the price. They would not bring their price down. So we gave them their price. No one else would, which was so weird because it was here in Rancho, great area, great house. We gave them their price. It actually appraised. And my clients are like, dude, this is amazing. So I predict it'll still be going up, but I don't think at the kind of crazy madness numbers that we've been seeing. And again, this is a very broad stroke of the brush because, LA is very different than San Bernardino County, and Orange County is very different than Riverside County, and so on. But it'll continue to go up until we see. Again, I think we need some sort of incentive for sellers more until that kind of settling of more sellers to equal out with the amount of buyers.
Yeah, there is. I know that I've heard you guys talk about the affordability crisis, and there, in your opinion, there isn't. Ray said there really wasn't an affordability crisis, but I waged against that. But if they gave an incentive to sellers that were selling smaller homes that are under 1,500 square feet and gave sellers an affordable housing tax credit, I think that would be fantastic.
Yeah. So I still see it going up, but hopefully it'll slow down a little bit. But yeah, it'll still, people are still, if you're staying in your home, you're still going to be, your gains are going to grow until the end of the year.
And so look at there, another month, another record. SoCal home prices hit all-time high. Mm-hmm. Yep. There you go. There you go. Do we have any more questions, Eddie, or are we done? Here we go. Question Nell says, what was the lowest fixed rate can you get right now with a FICO score of 730 and above and no debt? You would have to talk to your mortgage broker. I can't give numbers like that over the internet. I don't. Yeah. I mean, there's a million different factors that goes into what you can what they'll give you a loan for.
And it depends too, which lender you talk to. Are you buying points down? What's your income? How much are you putting down? Is it 3%, 3.5%, 5, 10, 20%? There's a lot of factors in there. So just talk
how many
to your
other
lender.
assets do you have? Do you know how many 401ks do you have?
Right.
I mean, there's a million.
If you don't have a good lender, you can reach out to me if you're in Southern California, or any agent. Well, again, I don't know if any agent has a good lender, but find a lender that you trust and then shop that lender.
How can people get a hold of you, Dan? How can they get a hold of you?
I'm D Ludwig Rocks everywhere. So you can reach out to me. You can follow me on Clubhouse. You can go to Instagram, DLUDWIGROCKS, and that's Gmail as well. So if you want to email me, D Ludwig Rocks, DLUDWIGROCKS.
I have no idea what you just spelled. I'm dyslexic as all could be. So I'm trying to throw all those letters in at one time. I went, okay, that's alphabet soup.
There you go. Yeah. First, it's the simple version, first initial, last name, D Ludwig, and then Rocks.
There you go.
Yeah. Because I rock. That's the bottom line.
Oh, look, it even says it at the bottom of the screen. Thank goodness.
Yeah, I think ahead. I have my
handle.
It's set. Yep.
Yeah, you do. You have your handle. Thank you. Actually, I have a question. I have a property that I purchased for $150,000 and I owe about $139,000. If I rent the property and I get $1,700 to $2,000, but I can't afford a home in the area. I have a question. I have a property that I purchased. Oh, Eddie, I have a question. I know. I have a question. I have a property that I purchased for $150,000. I owe $139,000. If I rent the property, I can get $17,000 that I can't afford a home in my area. So I don't understand the question. Should I buy elsewhere or just work remotely, or just wait for the prices to become a little bit more affordable for me to try to buy a home? Oh, that's a difficult one for you to like. Me personally, it's your home. You live in there. Rents are extremely high right now. If you can't find somewhere else to move to, I would try to stick in with where you're at right now and work from home. That would be my personal opinion. What would be yours?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say the same thing because there's a lot of moving pieces to that question. So rents right now are very unpredictable. So, and remember, that money's not coming back to you. But when you stay in your home, it seems like, we bought it for 150 and he owes 140. So how long have you been in the home? There's that question. How much have you paid off of that mortgage, or what's your home worth now? So I'd say stick it out. With that slim of a margin, only $11,000 in equity, I'd stick it out and wait. But if your goal is to hold on to it and then rent that out eventually, there's going to be a market for you in the future. It just may not be in the next year and a half, but by that time you will have paid down that mortgage. And then remember, your price is going to get to a price, and it's going to take a lot for even a correction to happen. So, a 10% change in what your house is worth, but hopefully whatever the max is, whatever this number we gets to and your house is worth, that hopefully it'll stick. Then you've paid that mortgage down. Now you can leverage that. So I would stick it out a little longer. My opinion, just an opinion over the internet.
I got a million of those. Just ask me. Yeah. Eddie had a question that popped up. Oh, look, I got this one. I'm going to grab this one, Eddie, because you're slow right now. I'm going to do this. It says, oh, wait. All right. I won't go back. I'll go back to that. Shanice, Shastina. Thank you. Yep. Shastina. On Zillow, a home exactly like mine with smaller lot sold for $462 with new flooring and countertops and interior paint. My estimate is $440, and they want to deduct for cosmetic issues to $409. Is this normal? It depends on your market. And what did your real estate agent say? Like, I know that would be normal outside of this pandy, that they always take money off of not necessarily cosmetic issues. It's usually like things like there's foundation or roofing or those kinds of problems, but it's not unheard of for the deduct for issues, but not cosmetic issues, not for like paint. Like air conditioning unit, roof, hot water
big
heater,
stuff. The bones of the home, roof, plumbing, electrical, sure, you're taking off 10, 20, 30 grand, but that's a $50,000 difference. And also, what is cosmetic though? Is that is the difference between a totally upgraded 10 out of 10 home with the kitchens, bathrooms. It's got all the Chip and Joanna stuff in it. And then yours is more original with tile and stuff like that. That can be a difference, of 30 grand.
Well, I mean, if she's just saying countertops and interior paint, that is not enough to take off $50,000.
No,
No. Kristina says no.
Yeah, and remember, Zillow's not seeing your house. They're not physically. So I always say I'll do a CMA, which for those of you who don't know, it's a comparative market analysis. I'll do one, and if you just want a number, I'll send it to you. But I'm going to say it might be off, especially with this market. It might be off by 5% or so, because I'm just going based on, the questions you ask or I ask you, which is, what do you think? What do you rate your house at, out of 10 kind of thing? What have you upgraded and all that stuff? How are the bones of the home? But I would really like to see that home and get into it, and then I compare it to the other ones. So that seems like a really big difference. So $53,000, that's a lot.
Yeah, that's why we always say they call it a zestimate.
Right. And they did. They protected themselves, so they don't have to.
They have good lawyers. Deeper profit, good lawyers.
A lot of them too.
Can I get a HELOC on mobile home? It's on a double lot with a studio cabin and a metal barn. It's 100% paid off.
Nice.
First of all, that is awesome.
Awesome.
It is awesome. You may want to check with your local credit union to see if you can get a HELOC on that. They've been difficult to get since the pandemic started. So I would that would definitely be a local lender issue, and I would work with a credit union or your local lenders in your area.
For HELOCs, I wouldn't. So actually, some lenders won't do a HELOC, so it's probably going to have to be a bigger bank. I don't even know the bigger banks anymore. Wells Fargo, B of A, all that stuff.
Wells Fargo's not doing them.
Yeah, so there you go. We did one, 7-8 years ago, and it was through Wells Fargo, and it was really cool. But yeah, it would probably have to be with a bigger bank, and then it'll be pretty simple. They'll either say, yeah, we will, or no, we won't.
And here it would be a local bank. To get a HELOC here, use a local.
You can do. I think you mentioned credit unions too. They'd be a good source.
Yeah. That's who I always think is the best for HELOCs, but that's my opinion. What's the future of the Orlando housing market? That is a Ken Pozak question. You would have posed that to him. Maybe I can have him come on here again and talk about.
So is he like you? Like if we mention if we mention on our show tiny homes or manufacturing, you just pop in. Like your ears burn and you just jump right in. Is there something for Ken that we can get him to just know and he'll jump on?
Well, they have a podcast called The Bearded Men of Real Estate. And I at that time, I'm actually in another Zoom call with, I have to take at the same exact time. I have their show on in the background. So whenever they say tiny homes, that's when I'm like, hey, fellas. Yep.
He's always listening. So we got to watch what we say.
I know they can't talk dirty about me. They can't say bad things. They can't say bad things. All right. There's another question I saw come up here. Oh, look, Eddie's going to throw up Orlando. It says, it's a seller's market in Central Florida as home prices surge. Historically low inventory for homes in Central Florida, and prices are up 15% from 2020. Yeah. I have to tell you, we looked up our old house in Florida. We looked it up, and when we got on the old interwebs, the guy who bought our house for $235,000, right? Then he ended up selling his house 8 years later for $189,000. If he stuck it out, he would have been able to sell his house right now at $303,000.
Wow. See, I know that's that thing though. Like whoever can hear me, whoever can see me, do not ever try to predict the market. If it's right time for you to sell or buy, do it. Just do it. Do not try to predict the market. Don't look back and go, well, I coulda. Don't. Just if it's right for you to sell or buy right now, do it. That's it.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda. There's a lot of that. Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Yeah.
I saw another question come up here. Okay. Eddie's got this. What do either of you see headed for the Las Vegas, Nevada housing market? That's closer to California. I know there's a lot of people that have been moving into from California to Las Vegas. Las Vegas housing market is stays hard, but partly thanks to corporate buyers. Ooh, this is an interesting topic.
Ooh.
Corporate buyers. So that was a headline that last month made the waves through the YouTubes, talking about how big corporations like BlackRock and Blackstone were buying up single family properties and using them for rental units. But it isn't, and I've said this before, this was something I talked about at the beginning of the pandemic because it was happening in Austin, Texas. So some of these companies, some of these big corporations are still doing this, but they are creating their own like realty company, but it's not their realty company. Let's just say it's Sears and Roebuck, but they'll have like Sunshine Realty and,
right,
backed by Sears and Roebuck, and they'll buy the houses in the area that's close to their factory and then rent them out to their own employees. And this has been going on. This is not anything new. This has been going on forever. It's just somebody picked up a piece of paper and goes, hey, this doesn't seem right. We don't have enough houses on the market. Why are all these corporations buying houses? And this is how corporations hedge their bets against inflation. They always buy
real estate. Yep.
They always do it. They've done it for eons.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I can't really predict another market. Yes, I'm only 3.5 hours away drive, and I drive kind of fast, so 3 hours. But it got hit really hard after the Great Recession. It got hit really hard. So I think it's back. I think it took a long time. So I always kind of look at it like the wag of the tail, right? Like some areas were hit right when it happened, and Vegas was one of those because they kind of got big too quick. And then a lot of people were like, dude, I'm going to go buy a house in Vegas. And then they're like, why did I buy a house in Vegas? That was dumb. Now I own a house in Vegas that I can't afford. So I think they got hit really hard, but I'm hopeful that, it would stay a little steadier compared to 10, 15 years ago. But I think if there is any sort of correction, I think that is part of the tail wagging that might get hit kind of hard. So they need to be careful because it is very vacation-y, very buy a house on a whim kind of thing. I'd say they need to be careful, but for the agents I know that work there, it's pretty strong.
Yeah, that's the same as Orlando too. That's what happened the last time the housing crash. Just the last one really hit it hard because I bought my house in like 2 years. It went from 135,000 to 235,000. That was stupid. That was dumb money.
Yeah.
Sabrina Roberts says with a $5 super chat, I am in SoCal and I'm thinking about buying a new build next year. How do I find out when new housing developments are in my area? Thanks. How do they do that in SoCal?
It's like, I don't do a lot of new construction just because it is different here. We have what's called Melrose and then there's always an HOA. So I'm going to circle back to that. But it's really just, if it's not a bigger builder, for the most part, bigger builders, you're going to know that they're building in that area. And then usually you're going to see a development. And then sometimes in those bigger developments where they're building 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 homes, it's going to be 3 or 4 different builders all doing different sections or different sub developments in there that all offer different things. So for the most part, they do put those things on the multiple listing service. And I highly recommend, even though you're buying new construction, I still highly recommend using a realtor to support you through that process. It is different for us agents. But they're going to try to tell you, because they want you to go into that unprotected. They don't want you to have an agent. They don't want to pay an agent. So I highly recommend it. And then for the most part, I highly recommend using an agent. But for the most part, they have they'll put it on the multiple listing service. So they'll be listed there. But it really depends on area. If you're in Southern California, if it's in San Diego or, really depends on where you're looking. But also a thing to think about is that with new construction, we have what's called Melrose, which is a special assessment tax, which our base taxes around here is 1.1, 1.2%. That you really need to check with your lender when you're looking at new construction. Because that has to be part of your payment. So it could be 1.5% taxes, 1.89% taxes. Some areas it's over 2% total property taxes. And it's crazy. So you really need to pay attention to that. And then there's going to be $140, $180, $300 HOA as well. So sometimes new construction may not benefit you because remember, all that money is part of your payment. You can leverage that money and just go for a resale home and maximize it. So there's a deeper conversation there, but the short answer, sorry, I get wordy sometimes, but the short answer is they should be on the multiple listing service and they'll just advertise one house just to get you guys out to their development. And then you kind of walk through. Again, I highly recommend using an agent and then walk through all the model homes with your agent.
And this is the reason why he's saying he highly recommends it, because you can go on the old Google webs and it'll literally take you 5 seconds, because this happened throughout the country. So builders contracts are designed to protect one entity, and that's the builder. And a lot of people during this time had sold their house waiting for their current home to be built, because they already put down a deposit. They were going through the whole loan process, and they went ahead and sold their home, waiting, just a couple months, staying with family until their house was built. Well, it gets closer to the closing date, and the builder now says, you know what? We're no longer going to sell you this house for $600,000. We're going to sell it to you for $750,000. You're going to have to come up with an extra $150,000.
And you're under contract.
And you're under contract.
Yeah.
And so you're like, I can't afford that. So they're like, well, that's okay. That's fine with us. We're going to go ahead and sell it to, Sally over here, because she can afford it. And she's willing. She has the money right here and now.
Yeah. And they're like, well, we gave you the opportunity. Sorry.
Yep. Yeah, we that's it. Like, you couldn't get funding, so that's it. We'll give you your deposit back. Here's your $3,000. $3,000 in deposit, but go, and then they can't find a house, so you're stuck there. So that's why it's super important to have a real estate agent that understands those contracts, that can protect you, so that doesn't happen to you.
Yeah, and they have it in their budget. They're doing budgets. They're scheduling way ahead. They have it in their budget for whatever they're going to pay. If it's a set commission amount or a percentage, it's all figured into this. So when they tell you, no, we'll give you $6,000 credit towards this, our commission's already worked into their profits or their, what they're paying out. So do not fall for it. And they're going to offer you really crazy things by offering you their lender to go with their lender. Don't do that.
I know. There's a reason why it's less expensive.
Be protected. Yes.
Yes. Old Man Dan has another question. It says, I have a pre-approval from Ally Bank for up to $200,000, and all I did was fill out online. How reliable is a pre-qualification? Probably not the worth of the paper that it was written on.
Yeah. It's a pre-qualification, not a pre-approval.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And years ago, I did a video about this. So what's the difference between pre-qualification and pre-approval? So pre-qualification is, like you said, you just filled out a form online and said, look, you can afford $200,000.
Yeah.
A full pre-approval, that you have turned in your W-2s, you've turned in your bank statements, you've turned in your 401k documents, you've turned in your debt to income, like everything. They have pulled a full credit report on you. And then they're like, okay, now this is a pre-approved. This is how much they can afford for a house.
And a lot of lenders now are giving conditional underwriter approval. So that means they've had their underwriters look at you already, which makes you an even stronger buyer. And they've said, hey, as long as everything stays and I get a good appraisal, I'm going to approve this. So now you can put that kind of in your offer letter and say, hey, look, we have conditional DU approval. We call it underwriter approval. And my buyer's super strong, ready to close in 17, 21, 28 days, whatever.
Yep. All right. Eddie, you got any more? It says, questions. Are millennials a lost generation for home ownership? What will be the long-term consequences on the market? I'm gonna share a statistic that I think is pretty interesting, actually, about this, because I'm actually doing a video about this, shockingly enough. I know that's going to surprise you.
Turns out you do some videos every now and then. Yeah.
So baby boomers still hold 44% of the real estate wealth in 2021, compared to 31% of Generation X, which is the next richest generation. By token, though, the Generation X should have held more real estate by 2017. They're still far behind. So I don't know what the answer is. That's why I talk about affordable housing all the time. There is lots of things that need to be done, but the thing is that we got to get louder voices in that field that's willing to do it, because the solution that has come from corporate America when it comes to affordable housing, they're like, oh, we just need more affordable more affordable apartments. We don't need more affordable houses, which is a really crummy way to look at things, because how is anybody supposed to build generational wealth if you do that? Because everybody knows, how did the baby boomers acquire all this real estate? Because they used it for wealth in order to get their kids to go through college, to fund their retirement. They're doing these loans where they get paid back the money that they put in. I mean, like, come on, reverse
Yeah.
mortgages. Like,
Yeah.
this is how a lot of people were able to earn income and be able to retire later down the road. We cannot turn our kids into renters. And for myself, we have a few rental properties. I saw my husband. I'm like, maybe we should hold on to these and give that as like whenever they go off in the world, like, here's your present. Here, you have this property. You can use
Yeah.
it as income property, or you can, like, that would be their like inheritance. There it is.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's awesome. That's the generational wealth thing. Like, so
Mhm.
yeah, I don't think they're going to be a lost generation. I think they're finding ways. I think two things. I think they're finding ways to make money and not have to be locked down to a home in one place. So I think they're going to travel more, but they're also, remember, they're waiting longer to settle down. They're not getting married at 20 and having kids by 25. They're not. They're waiting until they're not even meeting the one until 30, 33, whatever. So I think it's going to be delayed, but I don't think they'll be lost in all this. I think they're finding many, many different ways. Remember, there's a lot of digital ways to make money nowadays. And I think they're finding those because they're that generation. Now I'm the generation, I'm 47 years old. So I'm before, computers were a thing, but I'm before home PCs and before video games. I still in our kitchen, I had the corded wire that I had to, if I wanted to talk to someone, I had to drag it into my closet in my room with that 40-foot cable. But these kids, the Oregon Trail generation, they've been born into technology. So they're finding different ways to make money from wherever they want to live. So I think they're going to be just fine. And then a lot of numbers that I see, they're going to be buying over the next, 2 to 3 years.
But the millennials that are able to afford homes, that I would say I would consider what they would say starter homes, are millennials that have really good paying jobs. I mean, they're really good paying jobs. So
a lot of them stayed home until they got that really good paying job. Now they're not doing the rent, then buy a condo, then sell that and buy. They're just coming out of the box with money saved and ready to go.
Another thing too is that this is the generation that did see that last housing crash. A lot of people were like, they were young, so they saw what happened to their parents, and like, I don't know if I really want to buy a house.
I don't know if I want to go through that.
Yeah, and then, like you said, that they have this mindset of like, we don't have to live anywhere. I can do this job anywhere, and they have no problem. Let's just take a bus, strip it out, turn it into a hotel, like
I'm so down. I love that. I'm in.
Oh, I totally love that. I'm like wicked jealous. I couldn't do it now, but I mean, that, like, I get it. I can see why anybody would want to do that, because you can travel over the country, see the world in a bus that you've totally turned into a home. I think those people at some point will probably get sick of it and want to be in a house. And I know that a lot of tiny home people that have lived that lifestyle for several years are like, okay, now it's just time we're ready. We saw the world. We're ready for a house. That happened to my parents. They did that. They did that. All right. Body Blow Biscuit Butter. Wow. That is the coolest name.
I'm in.
That is the coolest screen name ever. Body Blow Biscuit Butter.
Don't know what it is, but I'm in.
I know. It just sounds really good. Yeah. Is there a way to find a specific lender that with no prepay penalties? Is there a way to find a specific lenders? Well, anytime you get a loan, you can go into any loan officer's building and sit down with them and they give you a whole rundown of what their costs are, and if there's prepayment penalties. I can't imagine why would you have a prepayment penalty.
They want to give you a loan, so I don't know why they would have that. If it would, and it's also if they're gonna sell your loan, so it really depend on the servicer and if they have any prepayment penalties, but I don't see why they would.
There was a period of time there for a good 2 years. There was like this weird thing with prepayment penalties. I don't know why. I forgot the whole reason why that came about.
Yeah, but I mean, technically, if you sell, you're paying off that loan and getting a new one, so they get their money back and they're happy. So I don't know. Yeah.
Dan and Kristina rock. Thanks, guys, for entertaining us, and you too, Eddie.
I like it. Yeah.
Dan, I am like losing my voice, and I know you've probably ran out of what was the magic sauce in your cup, and I'm getting low on my tea. Yeah. So I want to say thank you to you in spending your Sunday with us. And everybody, if everybody could say thank you to Dan in the chat, because he did spend a long time with us, and it was a fantastic conversation. And hopefully you want to hang out with us again.
100%. This was awesome.
And look, guys, look, his like handle name's right there. Look, you can see it says Dan right there. So on Instagram, is it the same thing?
Everywhere is D Ludwig Rocks. So my two main things right now, Clubhouse. If you guys know what Clubhouse is, there's a lot of value coming out of Clubhouse right now, a ton of value. And then Instagram's where I post all my stuff. And then, if you want to email me, you can. That would be awesome. But yeah, D Ludwig, DLUDWIGROCKS everywhere for those listening. Oh, sorry, you're not a podcast as well. I'm used to saying that for our show. But also every single Wednesday, my partner and I, Ray, who is in Little Rock, Arkansas, he's the other half. So I'm that dude. He's that dude. The Bearded Men of Real Estate. We're live on Clubhouse, Facebook, YouTube, everywhere. And then you can go right now. You can say to your favorite smart speaker, I don't want to turn anyone's smart speaker on, but you can play the Bearded Men of Real Estate show podcast, and it'll play that for you. We're on episode 154 or something like that. We've been doing it for 4 years, but every Wednesday at 1 p.m. East Coast time. We would love it if you would join us. And it's for real estate agents. It's for buyers, sellers. It's for everyone. So we would love to have you there.
And what is really good about that is that you do hear it from a real estate perspective, because a lot of people that end up talking, because they end up coming through Clubhouse, are other real estate agents. So they get to talk about their market as well. Yeah. It is a really good podcast. That's why I do like it.
We're world famous. We're, depending on which way you go around the globe. If you go west from me back to Ray, it's world famous. So we circle the globe, and we do get a lot of input from agents all over the country. In fact, Nico, who is in North Jersey, he's in a buyer's market in one of his markets that he works, and then a seller's market in the other. So it's very interesting to hear this stuff nationally. And then we cover national news stories much like this. It's really, really interesting stuff. And we go past the headlines. So we get past the clickbaity stuff and really break it down.
Just like we do here. You do here. And if you haven't yet, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And thank you, Dan. I appreciate you. But everybody, I hope you have a fantastic week. If anything changes in the real estate market, I will be letting you know in my community page. And I will be catching up with you next Sunday. Bye-bye. Say goodbye.
Love you guys. Thank you.
This is when we do this thing. Ready? You do this? You remember you do this?
Yeah.